Would you be a jerk if you told your sister her baby's name sounds like a dog's? We'll get to that shortly. But first, am I the jerk for sticking to my rules about paying for my children's education? I'm a single mother of 3 daughters, twins, a 21-year-old female, and Alice, a 19-year-old female. I promised my daughters when they were in elementary school that if they pursued higher education, I would pay for it. They wouldn't have to take out loans or worry about anything. This applied to any type of program, university, community college, trade, etc. My only requirements were that they share their grades with me at the end of each semester, and that they immediately enroll in whatever program they chose. They did not take any gap years or return to school as adults. I always encouraged college but never forced it. One of my twins took me up on this, and she is now a senior with a major in psychology, while my other twin did not and is now working as a tattoo artist. They're both kicking butt, and I'm equally proud of them. However, Alice informed me as a senior in high school that she wanted to take a gap year. When I asked her what she planned to do during her gap year, she said something about relaxing before returning to the real world. She said she wanted to go to college, but not right away. She also stated that she did not intend to work during this time. I told her she had the entire summer to relax, but she insisted on taking a gap year. I said fine, but don't expect me to fund her education a year from now. She brushed me off. If she had intended to do something productive with her gap year, internship, and so on, I would have had a different perspective on this. Fast forward to September, and an analysis of the previous 4 months has been completed. Relax. She sleeps until 2 p.m. and has yet to find work. She has the car and the means to do so, but she does not want to. She mentioned going to school next year and asked if I would pay. I told her no, and she knew it. I told her I'd be happy to assist her, but I wouldn't be paying in full. She exploded on me, asking if I was serious and describing how unfair I was. She yelled at me and called me a bench because I paid for her sister's college but not her own. I reminded her of our conversation and how she had known my position since she was a little girl. I also asked her if she had applied for scholarships or taken any other steps to help with these funds. She hadn't. I told her that because I was retiring in 2025, I no longer had the funds to pay for her entire education and that I needed to start saving for myself and my future. I told her she had missed her chance. She is extremely angry and has barely spoken to me. I feel bad, but also don't. I believe this will be the first of many experiences in her life that teach her responsibility. She had the opportunity to have her education paid for, but she chose to do nothing for a year. She can still go to college and I will help pay for it, but she will need to take out loans. I quote, am really not sure how to approach her about this. Am I the jerk here? I'm a little conflicted because you can't argue that Opie is inconsistent, as if they were very clear about their intentions and how this would play out for them. And I kind of understand. You don't like it when your child takes a half year off and just lays around before heading off to try to be productive. And it isn't just 4 months. It's only 4 months right now because they're talking about the upcoming school year. So this is expected to continue for a while. Still, you could argue that realistically, it doesn't matter if they take that gap year off as long as they keep trying. In some ways, however, it is similar to an investment. If you're paying a lot of money for your child's full-ride scholarship, you should do so with the expectation that they'll work hard for it. Then saying, oh, I just want to take a gap year and relax before going for it. I'm not saying they won't succeed, but it's understandable that it may not boost your confidence. I'll just say that I'm retiring in 2025 because I don't have the money anymore. Something feels strange, but I'm not sure why. Overall, I sort of get it. SFF Goth Girl mentioned that some people need a gap year for a variety of reasons. Inflexibility does not set a good example for your children. It's also unfortunate that you won't be able to pay for her to attend school in 4 months. It is very likely that she is overwhelmed and requires assistance. Does she even know how to look for scholarships? More importantly, does she even know what she wants to study right after high school? I attended community college, but I didn't understand how GPAs worked and ended up with a GPA that was slightly lower than 2.0, which was very disappointing for me. I was 23 when I realized I wanted to be a nurse. I believe you can reach a compromise. For example, she could start school in January instead of taking a gap year. It quote s only 4 months. I strongly believe that you should reconsider, Sean Adam commented. I believe this was around the age of 15 when the pandemic struck. This caused disruptions in school for anyone who was present at the time. It has had a greater impact on younger students than on older ones, and it is clear that there have been long-term consequences, including feelings of overwhelm. Again, she's on her own. Her sisters are twins, so they were probably a fairly self-sufficient group. It's difficult to say without a good understanding of the overall family dynamic and her own friendship group. If she has one, I am leaning towards it. You're the jerk for passing judgment because I'm suddenly retiring in 2025 and need the money that appeared out of nowhere. Of course, one should save for retirement, but not at the expense of imposing such strict college rules. How would OP have paid for the girls' college if she had followed the rules? Also, hello, my name is Steven, and if you enjoyed deciding whether or not all of these people are jerks, please click the like and subscribe buttons below. That being said, am I being a jerk by telling my husband's friend that he was selfish and hurting his wife? My 32-year-old female husband and 36-year-old male share a high school friend. John is a 36-year-old male. John is a typical jockey, athletic, attractive, and popular with girls. But I've seen and heard him behave inappropriately toward women. To the story. We were in a group of friends, and I was introducing them to my new baby who was less than a year old. Important information. I had a miserable pregnancy. When the topic of having children came up, John began to discuss how he and his fiancée, a 32-year-old female, would be the next most important information. His fiancée, Janet, is a wonderful lady. Kind, smart, and gentle. She's been through a lot recently, including the death of her father, and her health has been terrible. I won't say what it is, but she has a disease that causes headaches, weakness, dizziness, fainting, and extreme fatigue. She has become increasingly emotionally and physically dependent on him. On top of that, she and I are from different countries. This means her family and support system are not present. Return to the situation. I asked her if they plan to have children after the wedding. That's in 2 years. I reasoned that it gives her time to recover. He doesn't let her respond, saying they agreed to marry only after having children. I am surprised for 2 reasons. She quote always said she wanted children after marriage, and her health isn't great. She does not say anything but appears sad. I argue that it does not appear to be a good plan, and that becoming pregnant now could jeopardize her health. He said her fertility window is almost closed, and it's now or never. I get angry, and we talk about it. I ended up saying that he is selfish, and that this decision is solely based on his wants and needs, and that it is hurting her, which is a form of abuse. The room became quiet, and we left. My husband later agreed with me, but stated that it was not my place to say anything. Our friends were divided, saying that someone needed to say it, but that I was too harsh. Maybe it wasn't my place, and I was being too busy. But having gone through a difficult pregnancy without my family, I understand how difficult it can be, and my husband is a wonderful, supportive partner. Meanwhile, John leaves her alone to party and enjoy life. He is leading someone who blindly trusts him into a terrible situation. Am I a jerk? Was OP perhaps a little rough around the edges? Sure, but I believe they were speaking a lot of truth, and hopefully what OP said will resonate and seep through a little bit, making this guy realize how he is. And I understand it's not so simple because the process isn't free. Even if you live in certain areas, you may not be able to access it. However, if they are truly concerned about fertility, freezing eggs may be a viable option. Windows is closing, bro. Engels made a comment. What you said was accurate, but you were a little harsh. I think you were correct because the guy clearly does not care how he treats his wife. I also believe you should ask his fiancée in private how she feels about her situation. Opie responded, I agree. I came out too strong. I feel protective of her. She's very sweet and nice. I believe she does not deserve how he treats her. But when I say something in private, she keeps telling herself that he loves her and that she has never met a man like him. I believe she thinks he is out of her league or something. Our next story asks whether I'm a jerk for telling my wife that I don't want my daughter to call her grandfather dad. So my wife and I, both 34 years old, have a 4-year-old child. My wife's family has a strange tradition of calling the grandparents mom and dad and adding their names at the end. So, for example, Dad Juan is the grandfather, while Dad Jose is the father. At first, I was against the idea, but my wife insisted on it. After a year, I noticed that my in-laws began to believe they had parental authority over my child, and I saw that my nephews and nieces treated Durans and uncles as equals, and their parents as if they were another aunt and uncle, which did not sit well with me. The breaking point for me came yesterday, when my wife asked my child to choose a birthday gift for her father, and my child asked me what her grandfather would like for his birthday. The gift was for me. I sat down with my wife and expressed my concerns about this issue, telling her that I don't want my child to confuse me with her grandfather, nor do I want her to follow in the footsteps of her other cousins. She said she would think about it, and that was it. The next morning, my wife went to her parents' house, and less than an hour later, her parents called me and yelled at me for even questioning their traditions, calling me a butt, and telling me that my child will call them mom and dad whether I like it or not, because it is tradition, and they are unsure whether I will always be present in my daughter's life. I believe my point is valid, but then again, am I being a jerk by not wanting my children to call their grandparents mom and dad? I mean, tradition is tradition, but this is also similar to your immediate family and children. And I completely understand your desire to be a father to your own child. I don't know, I find it heartbreaking that they left. What do you think your father would like? They say, yeah, I don't know. What does Dad Juan want? It feels like that's supposed to be me. I am the father, Greta Cat commented, not the jerk. Wow. They made it very clear what they think of you when they said, because they are unsure whether I will be in my daughter's life, always. It may be time to inform them that they will not always be present in your daughter's life, and that with that level of disrespect, all hell will break loose very soon. I am sorry you don't have your wife's support. She sounds like a jerk. Opie responded, I think it's because 2 of the 5 sons-in-law have already bailed. They have all daughters and are extremely nosy. Our next story is, am I a jerk for discontinuing payments to my friend's son? Special Education Advocate Services, my 30-year-old female friend and I recently had a major disagreement. Long story short, she called me horrible, unwarranted names, leaving me completely hurt and confused. This is how it started. She considered enrolling her son in the Young Marines program, but decided against it. I suggested the Boy Scouts instead because my daughter is a Girl Scout and we've had wonderful experiences. She wasn't interested, which was fine, but I told her I needed to get off the phone to answer a call from my brother. Things took a turn. She texted me right after saying she didn't realize I was going to be on my broomstick today. Which insult? The situation only got worse from there. She went on to call me a lowlife, a disappointment, and other derogatory terms. I've never had anyone speak to me like this in my life. I told her I couldn't speak to her until she apologized. Her apology was more of a non-apology, in which she stated that she should learn to ignore those who trigger her. I mean, what? Here is the problem. Her son is a handful who requires special education services after she splurges on hair extensions, nails, and other items. She claimed she couldn't afford the $200 per month for 6 months that his services cost prior to all of this drama. I generously offered to pay half of it. I've already paid $100 to the advocate handling his case this month, but now I see her posting pictures of herself and her children at Disneyland, holding giant lollipops and bags of merchandise. She's also talking about purchasing a new Cadillac after receiving a large check from her sister. Meanwhile, given her behavior and priorities, I feel like a sucker for offering to help out. Am I a jerk for wanting to stop paying after how she treated me and then leaving? He is clearly not the jerk here. She clearly has enough disposable income to cover this. Unfortunately, I believe they have treated Opie and B in the way they are currently spending their money. Taking that away from them, in any form, will cause them to explode and possibly end their friendship. If I were in the OP's shoes, I would immediately try to attack me, calling me names and accusing me of being a monster for stealing their child's education and advocacy services, and now their child will suffer. I would simply reply with a screenshot of her saying, I'm thinking about buying a Cadillac when my sister's check arrives. Maybe follow up with pictures from their most recent trip to Disney, perhaps with a timestamp to show that this happened recently. And if there's one thing you can count on when visiting Disney in 2024, it's that you'll be spending at least hundreds of dollars to get in, and that's hundreds. Even if you live near the park and do not need to travel to another state. Tempting. Penguin 369 commented, "Not that jerk. I can't figure out what made her so angry. I also don't understand why you're providing financial assistance to someone who values her hair and nails over her son's education." I quote, not sure why the Disneyland stuff is relevant. Did she go to Disneyland after your disagreement? Our next story is about whether I'm a jerk for refusing to throw away a bunch of clothes because my partner believes I have too many. My 41-year-old male partner and I, 34-year-old female, recently moved into a new home. He pays for the house and the vast majority of our bills. He is well off, and my net worth is approximately 3% of his. For context, our home includes a walk-in closet. I currently use 60% of the closet, while he uses 20%, leaving 20% unused and available for him to use in addition to the closet space in our bedroom. We currently have 2 guest bedrooms with large closets. Before purchasing our new home, we lived apart. When I moved here, I was very deliberate about which clothes I brought and used the opportunity to get rid of a large number of clothes that I no longer wanted. My partner told me, "Hey, I want us to go through your clothes and decide which ones we're keeping and which ones you don't wear or use and should get rid of." I replied, "Okay, we can, but I already did that, and I only brought over the clothes I know I want to keep, so I don't think this is necessary and will not result in me getting rid of them." He said he still wanted to go through them. It's okay if we don't get rid of anything, but he doesn't want to bring junk into our new home, and I have too many clothes. He also suggested that we go through his belongings and do the same, but I said that I don't mind how many clothes he has or what he keeps or doesn't keep. To me, the whole thing is unnecessary, and I don't see why it should be an issue. We have the space. I already did what he asked me to do on my own, and I'm not sure why this is an issue. This is not the first time this has occurred. He brought it up several times, resulting in a similar conversation, though last night's was particularly heated. I was upset about it last night and said, "Why can't I bring what I want into our new home?" And he said, "Fine, I don't mind. Bring anything. And why don't you pay for everything?" And then he left because he needed to rest. Read it. Am I being unreasonable? I'm having trouble understanding how the OP could be the jerk in this situation. The OP clarified this beautifully at the outset. Sure, they use 60% of the closet, but the OP clarified that there is still approximately 20% of unused space. So this guy can buy his clothes at Kohl's or wherever he wants. Go on some sort of super haul. When he gets home, you'll probably still have room after putting away his new purchases. And I'm willing to bet the OP sounds like a reasonable person. If they were taking up too much space in the closet and he said he wanted more space for himself, OP would be willing to compromise and move some of their belongings to the guest bedrooms. It just sounds too controlling, as if they don't trust OP. Perhaps they have a strong personal desire to be especially frugal. Perhaps they want to save space and money wherever possible because that is what their upbringing has taught them. But that does not make OP a jerk for what they did here. Impression Academic commented, "Not the jerk. Is he in control in other areas? He is unable to express certain things. He is going through them simply because he is paying for the house, most expenses, and has a higher net worth than you." OP responded, "I always have a hard time determining the line between controlling and precise, disciplined, rigid with him. For example, he wanted me to pick out all of the furniture for our new home, but it had to be done by creating a spreadsheet with specific columns, as well as a specific priority for which rooms or items that we were going to move forward with. And if I wanted to request a change in those priorities or purchase an item, I had to send it via email with an explanation for why I'm making the change, etc. If I brought up something outside of these ways of doing it, he would become irritated or stressed and end up paying for things. He also came up with this, in which he stated that if he is paying for it, this is how he wants it done, and that we should treat it as a haphazard project, etc. Someone may see it as organized and precise, but it feels intense to me. However, there are many ways in which he is adaptable and kind. For example, I am a little messier than him, but he always cleans up or reorganizes things and never gets upset with me. This is the next story. Am I a jerk for telling my wife that she must care for the baby all night if necessary on our upcoming trip? My 36-year-old husband and 36-year-old wife are both physicians who work in the emergency room, has a very stressful job. I work from home for an information technology company. We have 2 children, a 3-year-old boy and an 11-month-old baby girl. Due to her long hours and stressful job, I am taking on the responsibility of caring for the children. The boy goes to daycare and I watch the baby all day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the baby, breakfast and dinner for the boy. I also bathe and have bedtime with the boy. My wife recently had the opportunity to travel to California for a medical conference, and I told her that she could go alone if she wanted, and that it would be a nice break for her. But she insists on us all going. She said she doesn't have to go, but it will be a fun trip, and she can use that time because it isn't part of her PTO plan. Now, I'd rather she stay at home to help me with the kids, but she was very excited to visit because she'd never been there before. I insisted that she go alone. It will make her less stressed. She can go exploring after conference hours. It'll be awful for me, but at least we'll be in a controlled environment, which is our house. There is space. All of their toys, the kitchen, my desk with a monitor set up, and so on, as opposed to our vacation, where we'll all be cramped in a Hilton hotel room. The kids have never slept in the same room before. Not only that, but we have to worry about bringing strollers and car seats on the flight, which I will do because my wife will find it too heavy. We have to carry 2 children. We need to make sure the hotel room has 2 cribs, a functioning freezer for my wife's breast milk, and activities for my toddler boy. So, what is he going to do all day in a hotel room while his mother is at a conference and his father is caring for a baby while making Zoom calls to work? I begged my wife to reconsider, but she said she'll take some conference days off or leave early if things get too overwhelming for me, because it'll be down the street from the hotel where we'll be staying, and I'm not sure. I'm exhausted lately. I just gave in and agreed to the trip, but now I'm rocking the baby at midnight and fuming because I'm not just watching the baby and the boy over the weekend. She signed up for a weekend call at work because it would provide her with extra money. I am also rocking the baby back to sleep. I angrily texted my wife that when we go on the trip, you must stay up all night to rock the baby or wear contacts. Leave the baby in her arms and stay up all night. She felt bad and offered to swap with me, but she has work tomorrow and I don't T. So I said it was fine, but I can tell I made her feel bad and I regret it. However, I'm not sure if I'm actually being a jerk. Am I really being one? Opie is clearly not a jerk. It sounds exasperating. I don't even think this is a communication issue, because Opie appears to have stated that it would be so much easier for them, And it really sounds like their partner isn't listening to them, or taking into account not only their immediate partner's needs, but also the needs of their children. I mean, they should feel bad. They're trying to do something extremely selfish. They want to drag everyone else along and create a difficult experience for the rest of them, all because she wants to have her cake and eat it too, which is having her family around while also not paying attention or helping them while exploring the city. I believe Opie is showing a lot of restraint and not blowing up even more over this ambitious force, commented Not the Jerk. That is your wife's plan, according to what I read. I reflected on all the posts I'd read from women who went on family vacations to cabins or Airbnbs and ended up doing the same drudge work for more people in less welcoming environments. Tell her you need a real vacation, and her conference is not it. I'm exhausted lately. This is what needs to be addressed. You cannot work from home while also caring for an infant. That's 2 different jobs. You and your wife need to work out a more equitable division of labor, and you'll probably get some extra help. Have you considered having a mother's helper? Someone who could work a few hours per day to assist with the children and housework? Morning Linky, number 3192 has been added. Yeah, it sounds like she isn't the one who needs to get away. It's time for Dad to take a solo vacation. If she was doing more of the childcare, she would understand what a nightmare this trip is for him. Our next story. Am I a jerk for only paying for my own food at a friend's dinner and wasting everyone's time? Last night, my friends and I decided to try a new restaurant that one of my friends, Alex, had mentioned. I wasn't too excited because I'd never heard of it before, so I had no idea what to expect. But I went along to hang out with everyone when we arrived. When I looked at the menu, there wasn't much that appealed to me. I ended up ordering a small appetizer and a milkshake, while everyone else ordered full meals. When the food arrived, I didn't particularly enjoy what I'd ordered, but I ate it anyway because I was hungry. Furthermore, the food was extremely overpriced. The milkshake was about $8 and the fries were $6, so my total order was $14. When the bill arrived, it was quite high because everyone else had ordered so much food. One of my friends suggested that we split the bill evenly, but I didn't think that was fair given that I had only ordered a small appetizer and a drink. I stated that I would only pay for my own food while everyone else's meals were significantly more expensive. Some of my friends were fine with it, but a few, including Alex, became annoyed. They said it was easier to divide the bill equally and that I was being difficult. I explained that I didn't choose the restaurant, didn't order much, and didn't even enjoy the food, so I didn't think it was fair to pay more than my bill. We had to stay an extra 15 minutes because I only had a card and no cash, and they had to go to the register and ask me to pay a specific amount. There were a lot of people present, so it took time. I was told that we should split the bill because we had wasted time, but I waited and paid the $14. Now I'm wondering if I was being unreasonable because it was quicker to split the bill. I know that many friend groups split bills, so I'm wondering if I was being selfish. I just didn't want to spend an extra $10 for no reason. Am I being a jerk about it? I'm not sure why this is relevant, but I paid taxes and tips. Many people mentioned cash. I usually pay in cash, but I forgot to bring it that night. My mistake. So I couldn't simply throw cash down. I needed to use the card. I never expressed how I felt throughout the night because I didn't want to ruin the experience. It was still fun to laugh with my friends, so I believe the response will vary. Personally, if it were up to me, I would argue that the OP is not the jerk. I believe that if you are at an outing and do not order much and are uncomfortable with spending so much more, it is fair to say that I will only cover what I received because I did not order much. I believe that everyone else who ordered all of this food is becoming a jerk as a result of their outrage. It becomes almost entitled like, "How dare you not pay for my meal?" So Richard Sugar responded, "Not the jerk. If people want to split a bill in this manner, they must notify each other ahead of time. When people know the bill will be split evenly, I believe they tend to order more expensive items. The bill quickly becomes excessive. They just lay it on like that, which means that anyone who didn't eat enough has to pay for the rest of the meal. Essentially, they wanted to split the bill on your back to make things easier. They should have planned it in advance. They'll be wiser in the long run." Our next story: Am I a jerk for telling my friend that I'm not a spoiled brat? She only has daddy issues. I just returned to school this week, and on the first day, I forgot about the project I was supposed to turn in. I had it ready and placed it in the back seat of my car, but I completely forgot to take it with me when I got out. I remembered it at lunchtime and asked my father if he could drive me back to school to get it, and he said yes. The drive from my house to school takes about 15 minutes, and my father's job only requires 4 days per week, so he was completely free. One of my friends kept going on about how I'm such a spoiled brat, saying she could never imagine her father dropping everything because of her mistake. Her father abandoned her as a child, and her stepfather is a terrible person. I asked her to drop it, but she just doubled down. I finally snapped and told her that I'm not a spoiled brat simply because I don't have daddy issues like her. She burst out crying, saying I had crossed the line, and she has been ignoring me since then. Am I a jerk? I hope he isn't the jerk here. That was such an inappropriate thing to say. I think there was some serious insecurity leaking out there. I'm sorry your father wouldn't do that for you. Shoot, I think even a lot of bad parents would drop everything and help out if they could in that situation. Even many uninvolved parents will respond if you ask, "Hey, can you really help me out here for 15 minutes? They'll probably do it. Like, really? What reaction did the friend expect OP to have? Yeah, you are correct. I am a spoiled brat. I got it really good. So how are you supposed to respond? 0 star 83 commented. You knew your response would be hurtful because you were aware of her domestic issues. She's certainly a jerk for continuing to harass you about your father doing something nice for you. But it sounds like you were cornered and did everything you could to get her to stop. Not the jerk. Our next story is about me being a jerk for telling my sister that her baby's name sounds like a dog's name, and now she refuses to speak to me. My sister has a baby. I am happy for her. Her baby's name is Ruff. It's Ruff. Ruff. It sounds like a dog. I assumed she was joking and laughed. I was wrong. She asked why I was laughing. I mentioned that it sounded like a dog barking. Ruff. Ruff. I thought we were laughing, but she became angry. She was angry. She claimed I was being disrespectful and that the name was significant to her and her husband. They enjoy an obscure video game character. I told her that she could name her child whatever she wanted, but that people would associate him with it, which could be difficult for him at school. She isn't returning my texts or calls. My mother says I should have kept my mouth shut. Am I the only one who sees this? I did not intend to be a jerk, but Ruff. I can't be the only one who believes this will backfire. So I informed my sister that her baby's name sounds like a dog's name. Is she overreacting? Yeah. So the situation is rough. I think the OP is unquestionably correct. I have no doubt that it means a lot to them. And I understand they named their child after that. But Billy, the school bully, isn't going to see the kid named Ruff and think, oh, that must have some meaning behind it. I'll see, but her best bet is to get their child involved in the theater arts, because a name like Ruff is probably a good stage name to have from the start. Irene commented that I am not the jerk who responded honestly to an absurd name. If you didn't like how you reacted, imagine how she'll feel about having to deal with all of the school bullying that this poor kid will face. I swear some people don't believe children aren't accessories. Boo-Boo773 commented on this. I understand that people want their children's names to be special to them, but they should seriously consider the future. Anything too strange, or that rhymes with something bad. Other kids will make fun of you, not the Jacoby. Your sister should get used to this reaction because it's going to happen frequently. But with that said, that is all the time we have today. Now, if you want to hear another crazy story, am I the jerk?